All right,
Okay.
so I'm speaking with Ken Mary, who is now the drummer for Flotsam and Jetsam, is now played on two Flotsam and Jetsam albums. Ken, it's great to finally have a good conversation with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Nice meeting you over the phone as well.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, with the Skype and Zoom and all that other stuff like that. I like going back to the old fashioned phoner, talking on the phone, having a conversation. I first familiarized myself with your work in Fifth Angel. That's where I first discovered you off the first two albums, obviously the self-titled and Time Will Tell. But you played on the 2018 Third Secret album as well, correct?
Yeah, actually, I produced that one.
You produced it as well. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, with you, you've got that studio, Sonic Fish, right?
That is correct. Yep.
Is Fish named after the jazz Grateful Dead type opening band?
No, as a matter of fact, when I moved to Phoenix, I felt like I was a big fish in a small pond, so to speak. And so I think it was originally like Big Fish Studios, and then somehow it morphed into Sonic Fish. I don't even really remember how, but and then it morphed into Sonic Fish with a PH, and we started in like 1995, I think, maybe
Oh, okay.
1994. So it's been around a long time.
Right. Now, with Fifth Angel, I mean, I guess they lost Ken Betchel, and I guess they've got Ethan Brosh on guitar and a new vocalist. Are they still active, though?
Yeah, and you're talking about Kendall Bechtel. Yeah,
Yeah, Kendall Bechtel,
Kendall
right.
Kendall is yeah, he's got some things going on. So yeah, he's no longer involved. Great talent, by the way, super talented guy. But yes, Ethan is involved. But we're talking about the Flotsam album, right?
Right, yeah, we are. We are. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we're definitely going to talk about Flotsam. Just want to touch on a few things.
sure.
You actually joined the band with End of Chaos after Jason Bittner left and departed for Overkill, correct?
Yeah, I joined in 2017, so I've been with the band for 4 years now,
Four
which
years
seems
now.
like seems like it was yesterday, but yeah, it's been 4 years. Surprise.
Yeah, well, I saw you on the End of Chaos tour. You guys came to, we came to Northern Kentucky. Um,
Awesome.
so I definitely, because I interviewed Michael Gilbert, and and you guys, I knew the guy who was doing a lot of your promotion and stuff like that. I used to work with him, Joel, and everything like that. So I was very familiar with all that. But it seems like this time the drumming on Blood in the Water, it's like, oh my God! It's first of all, the production is so incredible. It's such excellent production, and there's such dynamic drumming, and it's just so pronounced. You're playing. It's like, did you work with Michael in writing that music, or I mean, did you write some of the songs yourself?
Well, honestly, on the writing process, I mean, it's very much a band chemistry.
Okay.
When we work together, and it's a very fluid and a very open type of process. I mean, songs come in from different directions. Usually, it's from Michael or Steve. They'll have like a basic idea
Right,
for a
right. Steve as
song,
well, right.
and then it'll go to AK or me, and we'll write some things on it, and then we kind of circle back and see what everybody's feeling on it, if everybody likes the song, and if everybody digs it. Then we kind of put it into the stack of stuff that we start finishing off. And but the different songs happen different ways. Like a song like Control off the last album, AK just wasn't really having a good time with it, and so I took it and I kind of edited it up and put some put a melody and vocal line on it, and so that song was like probably mostly like Michael and I. And then there's a lot of songs that are AK and Michael, and then there's songs that are AK and Steve, and then there's songs that are AK, Steve, and I, and there's songs that are Steve and I, and there's and
Okay.
I brought in the song 7 Seconds. That was mine that I had like arranged, and then I brought Steve in, did the guitars. I wasn't even sure it was going to be a song for Flotsam, so I'm kind of showing that there's not really one way that it happens. And the cool thing is with this complete like mix and chemistry that we have going on, I think we come up with some really cool diverse stuff, and it's sounds different but the same. It sounds like the same band, but there's some things going on that make it really different and unique. So I just think it's really an amazing chemistry thing, and if you take one guy out of the mix, it's not the same thing. So I think on this album, maybe more so than the last, when you talk about things are a little different, it's kind of ramped up. I think the chemistry was just, we kind of knew the process a little bit better, after working on the Chaos record. But I tell you one thing, and I don't want to be too long-winded here, but we were worried after Chaos because we really felt like we put so much energy and really we really felt strongly about the end of Chaos and going like, how are we going to follow this up and make it better? We didn't even know. We're like, can we do something that's as good as this or better? And we kind of look back and we go, wow, we think we topped it, again, that wasn't something we were really sure we were going to be able to do.
Yeah, I remember Michael telling me that he's afraid there was no gas left in the tank. I think was his quote, and it seems like you guys got some new fuel and new energy, new vibe. Do you think maybe the pandemic just really? It seems like some of the lyrics are inspired by the pandemic, especially like "Cry for the Dead" and "Too Many Lives." Is it possible that maybe that also helped you guys get back and maybe just say, okay, let's get together and really put some effort into some new songs and new songwriting?
I think it did because everything's, the world stopped.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, we had a year's worth of touring dates canceled.
Yep.
Everything was on hold. We couldn't travel. We couldn't meet the fans. We couldn't hang out with the fans. We really couldn't jam together. I mean, it was, the whole world just kind of ceased to exist. And so we built up, I would say a certain degree of frustration and a
Right.
certain amount of angst. And, if you listen to the record, I'd say absolutely, the record was partially inspired by the virus. And, I think it made for a very angry, very, very aggressive, but also very insightful record. I mean, I think
Right.
it's a thoughtful album. I think gives you a lot of people, pause for thought and things to think about. And so, I think it's very, it's kind of an interesting thing that, like you said, it kind of came out of this, this situation. And yeah, so in some ways, I think this situation did have a positive impact on the album.
Definitely. Now, when did Bill join the band? As far as the bass player.
Well, Bill has actually toured live in the States, with Flotsam since like 2016, or
Right.
maybe even before that. I don't know. I'd have to check. But he was such a natural. I mean, first of all, he's an incredibly. You probably saw him
Yeah, I did.
when you
I did see
saw
him
us.
when I
Yeah.
saw you guys in Kentucky. It was Bill, but when I saw you guys with Hellstar, it was Mike. So it was probably 2018.
Okay. Well, I know he definitely toured on the self-titled album in the States. So,
Right. Right.
he's been working with the band for 5 years, off and on, and filling in for Michael when Michael couldn't play. And
Right.
honestly, it was a very natural.
Okay.
It was a very, it was very seamless because he knows the band, he knows what the band's about. He's a tremendous player. He sings. He does all. He's a super talented guy, and so it was just kind of like a no-brainer. But the transition was the smoothest I've ever seen in any band I've ever been in. So
And with both your videos, Burn the Sky and Brace for Impact, you can see how your drumming is. I mean, it's just incredible, and it's just your drumming is amazing on the whole album. I mean, the production is so good that the drumming. The more I listened to the album about 15 times, and I just hear the drumming going. How does he know all those parts? And it's just so fast and thrashing and aggressive. Even on Brace for Impact, it's kind of cool if you listen. The bass line has it calls back to No Place for Disgrace, the actual song itself, with the little slow part, which I think is kind of cool because No Place for Disgrace is my favorite Flotsam album of all time. With
that's
AKs,
funny. It's funny that you say that. That's one of mine too. My favorite Flotsam albums are the first two and the last three.
mine are the first four.
Oh, that's awesome.
But so you've been a fan of Flotsam since their inception, since even the Jason Newsted and the classic lineup.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've always, loved Flotsam, been very aware of them, and honestly, they're a band that, it's a very interesting thing because, we recorded the tracks for the self-titled album, the drum tracks, at my studio.
Right,
So
right,
I engineered that, and Jason was playing drums, and then when he left, Steve, the guitar player, and we've done a lot of different recording projects together, and he said, hey. do you want to hit some things? And I was like, well, yeah, absolutely. But to be honest with you, the thing that really excited me was the self-titled album. Like, I felt like the material was so strong, and AK's voice was just killing it. And it was such a great album. I had that in my car for months, listening to that in my car. So that was something that really
Yeah, like
inspired me. And I
Seven
was thinking,
Seals
well, if these
and
guys are
Iron Maiden.
making this great of music this late in their career, then this is a cool thing to be part of, because we're going to make some great music together. And I feel like on the last two records, those the last two records, last three records are some of my favorite Flotsam albums. So that's I'm just saying that as kind of a fan, because like you said, I've been a fan for years, and these are my most favorite are the recent albums. And I'm trying to step back. Obviously it's kind of hard to say that when you're in the band,
Right,
but
right.
but I'm just trying to look at it like a fan myself. And here's another weird bit of information I'll tell you. Like, normally when I'm done working on a record, like when you're involved in the production as I have been, you've heard a song probably 200 times by the time the album's done,
Of
maybe
course.
more. And so normally when I'm done with a record, I don't even want to ever hear it again. And with this Flotsam album, I'm just being honest with you, I enjoy listening to it now, which is totally, you know, not right for me. Like, normally I would never listen to something that I've heard over 200 times ever again, and I really still enjoy, listening to this album. So that's got to mean something, I think.
Yeah. Well, I think Michael, like you say, with the self-titled songs like Iron Maiden and Seven Seals, I think Michael brought back that classic Flotsam. And it's, obviously Edward Carlson hasn't been in the band forever, but I mean, brought back that classic Flotsam, which we were longing for, because for a while some of those albums were just a little, not, I don't think, up to par. I wish Eric AK could still hit the highs that he hit on No Place and Doomsday, and even on Quattro for certain, but obviously time, age and all that stuff. But I still think it's
Well, I would tell you this: he can actually hit those notes. I think it does get a little more difficult as you get older. I think the hardest positions in a band to be in, to be honest, is lead singing. Being the vocalist and being the drummer. They're two portions of the band that, as time wears on, they're just very physically demanding
exactly.
um, positions. And so I will tell you this: AK can definitely still hit those notes. And to me, here's the weird thing. And that's when I heard the self-titled in 2016. I listened to it and I was like, man, I like his voice more than I liked his voice, on Doomsday, or No Place. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, wow, I actually dig his voice more now. He sounds like seasoned. He sounds, it just was fuller and richer. And I was like, man, for me, I like his voice. He gets better all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the storm comes down. He hits some amazing, stuff for the masses, and some of the stuff is just a variation of his voice. But I think that's the case with a lot of vocalists, even Halford and some of these other ones and stuff. They're just not what they once were. So now you said you played with Alice Cooper in the '80s. What was that? What tour was that? Was it like Constrictor maybe or?
I did Constrictor, and also recorded on Raise Your Fist and Yell, and,
Oh
and
my
did that
God!
tour as well. So I was with Alice for like 3 years, and
So you were on some
you
of
know,
his great '80s hard rock albums, and you were with Kane Roberts, I take it too, right?
yeah, Kane and I just talked this morning, as a matter of
That's
fact. So
awesome.
yeah, yeah,
His
we do a lot of work together as well, like production work and different things. So we still are in contact quite a bit, and it's another situation where lifelong friends from that musical situation.
That's so good. His solo album a couple of years ago was quite different than the '80s solo albums, which were much more commercial. But I love Raise Your Fist and Yell. That's still my favorite Alice Cooper album. So that's pretty cool. Now I have
That's
to.
funny that you say that, because that's one of mine too. Because it's what they refer to in Europe as the metal Alice.
Yes,
The
definitely.
metal Alice
Constrictor
period.
and Raise
And
Your Fist and Yell are definitely Metal Alice. Absolutely. And
yeah, it was a blast. I mean, it was one of the highlights of my career in terms of, like, the '80s were such a fun time. People were just there to enjoy music and have a great time, and they did.
and you don't really have too many connections with Cincinnati other than Accept, but you were on three of Chastain's best albums ever. and he was in Cincinnati recording those albums on
Well,
Leviathan Records at
actually,
the
we
time.
recorded those in Seattle. I didn't know he was in Cincinnati. I thought he was in. Okay,
Well, he was
I'm
from
like,
Cincinnati. He has since, in the last 20 years, he has since moved to Nashville. But in the '80s, he definitely lived in Cincinnati because he lived in the same like neighborhood as I did in the mid '80s. Um,
well, now that you say that, I do remember it because I think we did a photo shoot when I was on tour with Alice, and we were in Cincinnati. I think we did a Chastain photo shoot during that time. So you are correct. He did live in the '80s, or excuse me, did live in Cincinnati for sure.
and Leviathan Records was definitely based out of Cincinnati. And you played on Ruler and Seventh with Mike Skimmelhorn still is in Cincinnati, and obviously Leather Leone. What was it like playing with on those albums? I know it's a little different than Flotsam, but
Well, it's definitely different than Flotsam, but it was a blast. I mean, working with David was awesome. If you're in a situation and you're doing more than one record with a band, then chances are you really enjoyed it. Like whether it's Fifth Angel or Chastain or Alice or whatever. You know, you usually if for some reason or on Pelletieri or whatever, if I think I did 5 records with him, but
yeah.
if you're not enjoying a musical situation, you probably won't go do it again. And those Chastain records, I still look back on those and feel an element of for our time, that time period and everything. I think we did some very cutting edge
Oh
things
yeah.
for that time.
Well, Ruler the Wasteland and Seventh and Never, those are my two favorite Chastains. And being from Cincinnati, those I would see Chastain and CGS every chance I could. Okay, so back to Flotsam. Did Kelly David Smith inspire you as far as drumming with the Flotsam style?
Absolutely. I mean, I told Kelly, I look back on what Kelly created, back in the early 80s, and he was way ahead of his time. I
Yeah.
told him, when I met him and first joined Flotsam, I just said, man, you killed it. Like I said, I can hear the excitement and the energy and the fun like, you can hear the fun he's having in those tracks. I can
Mm-hmm.
tell he's just having a freaking blast, just killing the drums on those things. And it's yeah, it was definitely an inspiration. And I just said, well, because his parts are so cool. He composed some great stuff. And
Yes,
I
he did.
asked him, I said, well, what was your inspiration? And he goes, man, I'm just following the song. I'm just following the stuff. And so I tried to carry that into the band. I tried to go like, okay, well, follow the song, let the song guide you, and let that be, what inspires you for the song. But yeah, I think Kelly, he did an amazing job in Flotsam. I loved his work in Flotsam.
I agree. I mean, you just listen to songs like Any Terror or Misguided Fortune, and him and Jason were definitely coming up with some phenomenal, I guess, rhythm
I mean,
sections and
you
riffs.
can listen to any of his stuff. I mean, the thing that I love about Kelly is he was just very creative. He didn't just settle into doing what was easy. He thought about it, and he put thought into what he was going to play. And a lot of times with drums, and a lot of times with drummers, in particular, it's just, you're just doing your thing, and you're not really thinking about the composition. And Kelly really thought about the composition. So, and anyways, yeah, I was very, very complimentary of him when we met.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I think, like I said, on the new album, your drumming is so dynamic and it's so heavy and it's so fast. I just don't know how you can remember all those parts because it's you're all over the place. I mean, I actually saw this list a couple weeks ago about like some of the most influential drummers, and so many drummers that I would consider so important to metal were left off. Who are some of the drummers that inspired you?
Well, it's going to be kind of a weird list, but I
That's
have,
fine.
I'm actually doing a project where I'm going to talk about the 3 drummers that inspired me the most. And it's probably going to be a little weird because it doesn't have a lot to do with metal, but these are guys that certainly inspired, the metal attitude, and they all brought different things to my playing. Like when I started out playing jazz and prog music, like prog rock
Okay.
and fusion and jazz fusion and things like that. And then I saw a Kiss concert when I was a kid, and I was like, I want to do that. so so um, that sort of got me into things like Rush and Aerosmith and
Okay.
Led Zeppelin and those kind of things. So some of my inspirations in terms of drummers, I probably everybody's going to say Neil Peart. Anybody that's you know been a drummer in the last
40
40
years.
years is going to say Neil Peart. So um, he was certainly a big influence, and I know he was a big influence on Kelly too. Because
Yes.
Kelly and I talked about it,
Yes.
and Kelly used to work on Neil's stuff all the time, and so Neil was probably one of the biggest influences, along with John Bonham, which sounds weird, but he had some Grace Note stuff and just his real solid feel. He was a big influence, and Buddy Rich,
Right.
who is still, you can go and watch drum solos of him. He died 35 years ago,
Right.
and you can
Right.
still go watch his solos. And to be honest with you, I'd probably rather watch him than like 90% of drummers today. I'd rather watch his solo, and the guy's been gone for 35 years. So when you talk about the biggest influence on me is probably Buddy. And Buddy, what he brought to drumming was speed, precision,
Yep.
and that's something I try to carry, but carry it into like double bass and metal. Carry it over into that the speed and the precision, carry it into the metal genre. And he's probably one of my, I'd say probably the biggest inspiration. But I think he was maybe the greatest natural drummer of all time, and here's why. Like a lot of drummers, as time has gone on, they were certainly amazing in their era. Like Gene Krupa, for instance. You go look at Gene Krupa and you go, in his era, he was the greatest drummer of his era.
Definitely.
But by today's standards, he's playing stuff that's super basic. So,
Right.
Time has moved on, and the only drummer that I can say that about that it really hasn't seemed to affect is Buddy. Like, you still go watch some of Buddy stuff on YouTube, and you just go, wow, the guy's still, like, it's still phenomenal watching what he played. So
Right.
that's weird when you think about, like, let's take athletics, and let's say every year somebody gets they get fast, the athletes get faster and stronger, and all of these things. And same with drumming. Like drumming, double bass drumming, I remember when 200 beats a minute was considered impossible, and now it's like everybody's
Standard.
people are playing like 280. And like it's just all, everything keeps getting faster and better and stronger. And the fact that Buddy Rich was born in 1917 and had no YouTube, and he wasn't able to watch anybody or be influenced really by anybody, and you go, like, what an amazing, like, that guy wrote the book.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it's
Definitely.
so. I
Absolutely.
think I think he's the greatest drummer of all time, but that's my opinion.
Well, even Neil Peart did an entire documentary on him, so there's no doubt about it. So, how, after playing drums for 40 years yourself, do you still have the speed and rhythm and intensity and aggression to play that fast?
Well, I think for me, I will say this: as you get older, it gets a little more challenging in terms of you have to take care of your body, and
Exactly.
so when I'm touring, you know, people go, well, and with Flotsam, it's very aggressive. I think one time we did 41 shows in 43 days or something. I don't even know how AK is Superman. I don't know how he did it, but we play a lot of shows, and there's really no let up, and the only way that I've found to do it is I have to eliminate things like sugar, coffee, anything that dehydrates you, and also no alcohol whatsoever. Sometimes when I'm home, I have a glass of wine with dinner, and
Right.
when I'm
Right.
when I'm touring, I won't even do that. I mean, no alcohol, no coffee, no sugar. Those are my rules on tour.
That's cool because almost every time I've ever seen AK on stage, he's usually drunk, and every time I've interviewed him, he's usually drunk or high. So that's interesting that you're just the opposite.
Well, it's funny. He's kind of a superhuman in
Yeah.
terms of he smokes cigarettes,
Yep.
and he'll
Drinks.
have a drink once in a while, and somehow he can still be Superman and sing, and
Yeah.
he defies defies the physical limitations of being human. But for me, I have to keep in shape, and I have to really pay attention, to do things that are going to allow you to play at that level. But it's not easy. Let me
Oh,
say
I
that. I will
know.
say that to play with that speed and that intensity. Um, it's taxing, and it's a huge workout. Like when I'm done, playing a show at Flotsam, it's like I'm just completely drenched.
I bet. Now, what are some of your favorite older songs? Since you mentioned being a fan of Flotsam since the beginning and loving the first two albums, what are some of your favorite older songs to play live?
Well, I mean, certainly Doomsday, for the Deceivers is
Really?
on.
That's a long song. Okay.
Yeah, I really like that one.
A lot of time
Um,
changes.
obviously, No Place for Disgrace it's a classic that we play. I Live You Die is one of my
Yeah, I was thinking I
favorites.
Live You Die. Once again, you can hear some of that on the new album, too. Yep.
Well, the cool thing about that song, and that's a Jason Newsted
Oh,
song,
yeah.
and that song I think has been in every Flotsam show ever. I think. But the great thing about that song is, I mean, the drumming is very intricate, especially for that time period, and it sounds like something we could have done today, and had and it would have fit in, perfectly. We could have put that on this album, and it would have fit in perfectly. So, that's another favorite of mine. I mean, there's so many great ones. It's hard to say, and I really love some of the stuff that we're playing off of End of Chaos. Prisoner of Time, Recover. That's the one song that's probably like what I would consider the ballad of the set.
The ballad, yeah.
It is, and it's like a probably like an upper mid tempo, and that's the only song that like you can catch a breath in.
Right. Well, on the new album, I think "Cry for the Dead's kind of the slower song, but it's still heavy and fast.
It
So yeah.
is, and if we play that in the set, that would actually be a good thing. But I agree with you. I think that song hails back to um, an earlier time in Flotsam, and that's actually one of the things that I was trying to capture. I was telling Mike, I said, dude, we need to write something that's sounds like it could have been on an earlier Flotsam album, and so he kind of had that he wrote it obviously,
Right.
but that was kind of the idea. He was like trying to get back to those things that influenced him when he was young.
Mm.
Like get back to your roots and get back to listening to some of the things you used to listen to when you're young to get inspiration. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that song could totally be on an earlier Flotsam album as well.
Escape from Within Part Two.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like Brace for Impact has the bass line in No Place and a little bit of I Live You Die, and Cry for the Dead is kind of Escape Within Part Two. So that's pretty cool that you do that. Actually, I Live You Die was my introduction to the band on Metal Massacre 7. When I
wow.
first heard the demo, I was like, "Oh, what is this?" And then right away, when Doomsday came out, I bought it, and I've bought every album ever since. Although some of the albums I'm not super big fan of, like The Cold, and I cannot stand Drift. Michael and I've had conversations about that. But
Sure.
what would be some of the new songs from the new album that you're looking forward to play? Obviously, probably the three that are fans know about: Blood in the Water, Burn the Sky, Brace for Impact. Or is there any other ones like maybe Gray Dragon? Your drumming on that is incredible.
Yeah, I love Gray Dragon. I mean, 7 Seconds is, my heart's a little bit into
Right,
that
because
just
you wrote
because,
it. Right.
that was one of the ones that I brought in. I mean, so it's hard to, I just like it because it has some really cool arrangement changes, and the drumming was, a blast. I mean, I kind of wrote that song, with the drums in mind. So,
That's awesome.
so, it's like, I might be the only one saying that, but I mean, I don't think we're going to obviously play it live. I think probably if we're going to play
Right,
songs
right.
live, it'll be one of the singles, or maybe one or two. Maybe we'll play two of the songs. I would suspect it's going to be Brace for Impact and Burn the Sky would be
Yeah,
my guess. But I love Blood in the Water too. I mean, I think that's
the
I,
title
I
track.
really
Yeah.
I really love that track. It's like one of the most aggressive Flotsam tracks ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say that's for people when they get the new album a week from tomorrow. That's to be the very part is it's like Painkiller. It's like the very first part of Painkiller is that drumming. Scott Travis does. It's like the very first thing on Blood in the Water. It's like unbelievable, like hitting of the drums, and it's like, damn, this is gonna just don't sit down for a while because this album's gonna get going, and it's gonna get your adrenaline rush and going, and it is. You guys have all composed a very aggressive, heavy thrashing albums, and I'm sure the reviews have been great. I know there's going to be a box set version that has like a T-shirt and a bunch of other goodies and stuff.
Yeah, they do have a box set. I don't know how expensive it is, but and it's also tough to get it because I think it's in, basically coming from Europe,
Yeah, it
and
probably
that
is a
that gets
European.
expensive for all that,
Definitely.
shipping and all
Yeah.
that. But But yeah, I have one down at Mike's house. I just haven't had occasion to go pick it up yet. But I did see it, and it looks really cool. They had a really cool box set for the End of Chaos too.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Ken, it's been an honor to speak with you about the brand new Flotsam and Jetsam album. Your drumming is fantastic. It was really cool to briefly touch on, you know, your history as a drummer in so many influential heavy metal bands like Fifth Angel and Chastain, as well as playing with Alice Cooper and Accept and House of Lords. I'm so glad that, you know, you guys are looking forward to getting out there. I know you got a album release party in Phoenix.
Well, thanks so much. I
You
really
bet.
appreciate it. And you have an awesome evening.
You too. Take care.
Take care. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye.